Hey, welcome to Awkward Emails and Ready-Made Rhetoric. I can't promise I'll cover all that I mentioned in the abstract just because some things got more interesting to think about. But there will be some ideas that might help you think differently about emails. Look, I'm not saying your wildest dreams will come true, but I'm not saying that. My hope is that you really appreciate what I'm not saying as you experience this presentation. You can email me if you have any questions at pmulhauser@mcdaniel.edu or Twitter me at Dr. Mulhauser, and then there's the conference hashtag. I reckon that fundamental to this discussion is a little about the concepts and then a little about the history, about why I started this project. I'll start with the main theory or concept I like to think about with regards to the world. And if you need a thesis that connects everything together, here it goes. This presentation examines the affordances and constraints of ready-made rhetoric in email, focusing particularly on email salutations, valediction, and signatures, and how they can be viewed through a modern, postmodern, and meta-modern lens. I mean, I guess we'll cover some other stuff too. We'll see. There will definitely be a werewolf. Ready-made rhetoric is the prefab collection of communication practices that designers draw upon to communicate expediently. Stock photos, templates, Hallmark greeting cards are ready-mades for representation, design, and expressing a feeling. PowerPoint's alt text feature automatically generates captions for photos and is a ready-made algorithm making presentations accessible. Reaction buttons on social media are ready-mades for interactivity. And in other words, ready-made rhetoric is a ubiquitous and a common practice in composing, using it all the time. And of course, it's hard to talk about ready-made rhetoric without drawing upon ChatGPT and DALL-E, as well, a new sort of ready-made rhetoric, ready-made composers. So instead of a prefab, we get postfab, a fabrication based on fabrications. So we've moved on from a sort of modern idea about prefab stuff into a more postmodern idea, where composition rather, is shown to be completely constructed and how it can be instructed to be constructed. Is that progress, identity, constructs? I mean, how different am I from predictive text and AI, like ChatGPT? Between templating explicitly and templating implicitly. Ready-mating and ready-making? I mean, I really think part of my life is devoted to making ready-mades for the future and recognizing how past texts are ready-mades of the present that we see as unready-made. Email, however, presents a unique kind of ready-made situation. In particular, the signature that often comes at the end of an email. It's not that email doesn't already have ready-mades at the end. After all, there are valedictions that help writers finish a message, sincerely yours, best, warmest regards. And salutations at the beginning help writers greet their audience with the appropriate level of formality. However, the email signature asks writers to compose their own ready-made about themselves, a sort of autobiography about education, business, pronouns, contact, websites, political positions, thoughtful quotes, and imagery, which gets stamped on at the end of email. So email is important. So email is an important form of ready-made. It's a document that has 3 ready-mades included already, and it's got the ready-made that one makes themselves, adapted, adopted, remediated from older letters, but changed. At any rate, here's what got started me on this whole project. Dear Dr. Paul, I regret to inform you that we no longer need your services. Please empty your desk by noon. Warmest regards. And then the novel follows. So again, part of this motivation started with valedictions, where you get this pretty negative email and then you get something like warmest regards. And it just seems like there's this cognitive dissonance in what's being communicated. The other thing that I noticed is just the issue with Dear Dr. Phil. Or Dear Dr. Paul. I'm already messing it up. I just can't stand Dr. Phil. I'm not a fan. And that kind of informality mixed with formality, it's just so irritating to me. Finally, with the signature, you know, we all make mistakes. And this didn't happen to me, but this happened to a friend of mine once he got tenure. And it was another one of his friends who keyed him into this mistake. If it was like a week or so later, after many emails had gone out. And gosh, that is a long signature. It's even longer than the message. And just a side note, I do like the sent for my iPhone signature is default. You probably noticed that. What great advertising. But I like to add, I enjoy sending it for my new iPhone, hoping to get a discount on new products. Assocyate professor. I'm sure a lot of students kind of think that, about me at least. So I got thinking about ready-made rhetoric and the choices we have for salutation, and maybe what it could, should, or would look like through different lenses. Modern, I like believe in science progress. There's something we're moving towards. There's that trust. Postmodern, I don't really believe in that sort of progress. I'm a cynic. Things are constructed, kind of that distrust that you initially kind of feel towards things. And then the metamodern idea, like I move back and forth between the two. You know, you make a good construction, I'm trusting and I'm distrusting, sort of at the same time, I'm oscillating back and forth between these ideas. How this plays out in email salutations, and these examples are kind of focused on formal, which itself may be more of a modern idea than a postmodern idea. But here we go. Modern, you get these ideas like Dr. Paul Mulhauser, Dr. Mulhauser. Postmodern, you know, might be something that acknowledges it might not get there and could be reached by audiences who just don't give a shit, to whom it may concern, to whom's it mayn't concern. Metamodern, you might have this mix of like Dr. Paul, oh, gosh, this makes me crawl when I hear that, and to the person or people this is applicable to. So just oscillating between that postmodern and modern idea. For this one, I like to add context. So here might be a modern version, kind of a boilerplate response. Notice that the modern is a little more caring and direct when you have a belief in progress to set things straight. Dear Paul, dear Dr. Paul, I regret to inform you we no longer need your services. Please empty your desk by noon. Sincerely, all right? Kind of that modern valediction. Another modern valediction would be, dear Paul, dear Dr. Paul, I totaled your carriage, but I'm so sorry about it. And about your horse, too, and your valet. Warmest regards. Okay, so that awkward, this is just the template. I'm not really thinking too much about it. Trust in my feelings of kindness. There's nothing, no subtext to it, anything like that. Postmodern would be just a little bit different. So with a postmodern valediction, you might get something like, dear Dr. Paul, I totaled your carriage. I'm so sorry about it. And about your horse too. And your valet. Textually yours. You know, commenting on how this is the form of communication I've chosen to talk about this, you know, pretty bad occurrence. Postmodern, dear Dr. Paul, I regret to inform you we no longer need your services. Please empty your desk by noon, hoping you won't write back. So again, with postmodern valediction, you're you know, thinking more in terms, you know, cynical terms, but also commenting and being reflexive on you know, the medium and you know, how you're communicating this situation, the contextual situation. So thoughtlessly yours. Glad we don't have to talk in person. Textually, with every effort to sound smarter than you. Take care. Take a hike. Modern valediction would be a little bit different. So this one you get some hope, I think, with regards to how you're oscillating between, you know, these ideas. Dear Dr. Paul, I totaled your carriage. I'm so sorry about it, and about your horse too, and your valet, with difficulty and hope to make it up to you. Okay, so you kind of get that idea of acknowledging some hopefulness there with regards to valediction. Another example might be something like, dear Dr. Paul, I regret to inform you, we no longer need your services. Please empty your desk by noon. You're grateful, but now former employer. So yes, was grateful about something. It's not as ambiguous as warmest regards. There's an acknowledgement of the situation. So you're kind of going back and forth between that, modern unreflexive character and the postmodern reflexivity with the metamodern valediction. Signatures have gotten pretty long. I think you can, think of the regular things as part of that ethos, that trust in progress and who the person is that you're communicating with. So modern signatures would just, be those things like your name, your position, contact stuff, extra stuff that's about profession and credentials. No real irony about anything. A postmodern valid signature would be more, including the social media aspects, gender pronouns, statements about politics. For example, our colleges on indigenous lands, and quotes that are inspiring. So when you get the postmodern, you're kind of mixing up that professional and personal, or you're mixing that personal into, what might be professional. And metamodern is when you have those signatures that are just including all of this stuff, right? So I think signatures, you could say that you kind of have that modern idea of the signature over here, and then the postmodern stuff that's been added has created what I think is a metamodern signature, where you had, your name, position, the context stuff. So you're getting the real professional, trust, credible stuff, and that's mixed in with this sort of personal information, the social media, gender pronouns, statements, inspiring quotes, that kind of thing. And this is where I really got, really curious. So this is that, something else that I was talking about that got me, started thinking in new ways. It isn't a dating site per se when you have an email like this, but emails have become, a lot more like a dating profile with all that information, that's including the professional stuff with the personal stuff. And there's something that's become daily about academic email, like you're in a relationship with these signatures. They're more than just titles, and contact information. Like I said, they include acknowledgments about appropriation, famous or significant quotes. Some include GIFs, images, links to websites, social media profiles. It provides more information about a colleague or a scholar, their beliefs, their personality, which is great. And gender pronouns, though, might be the most significant additions for helping us understand a person's experience with the world. It's not so much of an oscillation as a combination, like you oscillate between the professional and personal again. You get this metamodern valediction. But I want to move on to a little bit more discussion of pronouns. So here's where I really switched focus. It just got me thinking so much. So gender pronouns, they're super significant, and such inclusion is a rhetorical move for identity expression. The preferences might be said to be agency in action for identity, for taking authority control of a body rather than letting an audience define you. Of course, there are assholes in the audience who just don't care and define you as they see you. Thinking in terms of textual activity, taking control of pronouns gives us a better idea of who people are and their experiences in the world, or at least how they want to experience the world. It helps us understand, better the fish in the sea. But the funny thing is that there are only gender pronouns. Pronouns for class, race, ethnicity, sexuality, and disability certainly could exist. They could be self-referential in the same way as gender. We could say about me and my whiteness, we, Paul who raises his white, cited blah, blah, blah. So instead of a focus on gender with regards to pronouns, now there's a new rhetorical choice in pronoun selection and how it might be affecting a text. Basically, I just wonder if they should exist as a helpful shorthand for making sure there's some equity in our textual activity, that we aren't citing or experiencing the same old types, ideas, and perspectives. Of course, there are more typical solutions to this understanding of social categories. There's checkboxes, which still have their own limitations. A reference point would be just, thinking in terms of Lisa Nakamura's cyber types. But still, you got to admit, more pronouns might actually be kind of cool rhetorical strategy, revealing how, authors emphasize their identities and the purposes of statements in a particular text, and who they are, for instance, in those email signatures. Who would they prefer to be talked about as? Can you imagine how different chapters, paragraphs, sentences could mix together different pronouns and make meaning? Okay, we went on a little bit of a tangent above. Back to my textual experiences. When looking through filters, pronouns, we often aren't sure how people are identifying besides gender. And though we do get some insight into race from pictures, and that itself is fraught with problems of vision and reading imagery, and well, what can't be seen. Like, who is this person? Is this person white? Is this person black? Is this person indigenous? Is this person a man, woman? Is this person an upper class Burkean scholar? What do we want to know about a person in their signature? So when we cite others in academic texts or interact with our emailers, do we want to know more about who we are textually active with? And some more explicit pronouns or profile knowledge might help with this. So as far as actions are concerned, we might want more descriptions letting us know about our textual partners, activities, and identities, especially if we're trying to be thoughtful and equitable. Well, citation, if it's about citation. As far as email signatures are concerned, I guess it could be more about identity and who people feel represents, how they want to represent themselves. So textual activities for scholars, rhetoric and composition scholars, might be just to theorize about if it's worth it, about how the world would be if authors would, select their pronouns besides gender, and even how combination of pronouns and writings would work. And if A seems worth doing what I just mentioned, then create some new pronouns and help scholars understand how to use them. So I used a Readymade tool for my conclusion and my summary. It was this online summarizing tool, and I just thought it might be a helpful way to conclude. So this is the Readymade conclusion for this piece. So, hey, welcome to Awkward Emails and Readymade Rhetoric. I can't promise I'll cover all that I mentioned in the abstract just because some things got more interesting to think about. Slide number 3. Readymade Rhetoric is the prefab collection of communication practices designers draw upon to communicate expediently. To whom it may concern, to whom's it may concern, meta-modern, kind of the oscillation between the two, with a little bit of hope. With difficulty, and hope to make it up to you. Slide number 16, Dear Dr. Paul, I regret to inform you we no longer need your services. Basically, I just wonder if they should exist as a helpful shorthand for making sure there's some equity in our textual activity, that we aren't experiencing the same old types of texts and perspectives. Slide number 25, I used a Readymade tool for my conclusion. Slide number 2, I reckon that fundamental to this is a discussion, is a little about concepts and a little about history. This is the one I wrote. Werewolves, Readymade Rhetoric, modern, postmodern, metamodern, email valediction, salutation, address, and signatures. Consider working with me. So thank you. Again, if you have any questions about anything, please contact pmulhauser at mcdaniel.edu, at Dr. Mulhauser on Twitter, and then there's the hashtag. I'll be checking this. Again, I'm sorry I couldn't be here in person. Just didn't work out as far as, finding childcare and stuff was concerned. I hope it was, thought-provoking, or you thought a little bit about something. Again, like to work with people. Another class is coming in here, so see you later.